Today, I'm here to talk about a very serious subject, workplace sexual harassment. This crisis has been going on for countless number of years. Countless number of women face it every single day, and this cuts across all boundaries, whether offices, business, schools, academic institutions, farms, factories. It's just everywhere. You name it, and it is there. And for some, marginalized by caste, class, society, this burden is even heavier. So, what is the impact of sexual harassment at workplace? Women carry trauma, physical and mental illnesses throughout their lives. The organization suffer too. They lose talent, they lose productivity. Like one girl told me, my entire concentration goes in avoiding him. It's affecting my work. And a few days later, I heard she silently quit. The organization did not even come to know about it. The research data reveals that employees who face sexual harassment are 6.5 times more likely to quit and costing the organizations double the amount in hiring and training. Even a giant like Uber collapsed under the weight of sexual harassment when an employee, Susan Fowler, quit and wrote a blog about the unchecked harassment that was there in Uber. The perpetrators suffer too. They lose jobs, face legal consequences, rifts in their families, children, sometimes even leading to suicide. What is the data telling us? 1 in 3 women globally suffer from sexual harassment at workplace. 75 to 80% women in India say at some point or other in their careers, they have faced harassment. But the surprising thing is 70% never reported. But one woman, Havri Devi, a village woman from the state of Rajasthan, who was gang raped by 5 men in front of her husband. For what? For doing her duty? She decided to speak up. She broke that silence and her voice reached Supreme Court of India. And Supreme Court of India laid down the guidelines which are popularly known as Vishaka guidelines when Nirbhaya was brutally raped, assaulted, died, and the youth rose. They broke the boundaries of their comfort. They came out on the streets and made their voices heard. The streets echoed, and the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act 2013 was born. So, what is the definition of sexual harassment under this act? So, it means any unwelcome act in the perception of a woman. Intent has got nothing to do with it, which is of sexual nature, directly or indirectly, verbal or non-verbal. Also, sexual harassment comes wearing very subtle garbs, like a long stare, a lingering smile, a sexist comment, a gender-based taunt, or insult. These things happen in plain sight all the time, everywhere, but they're dangerous because they erode the confidence and dignity of a person. So I reflected on my own career. I worked for 25 years as a legal professional and thought to myself, what were those moments which made me feel disrespected? Several were there, but one story stood out. In a room full of senior executives, I was a part of that. We were discussing a contract with foreign nationals. The time was less and we had to go for a next meeting. Suddenly, a colleague of mine looks at me and says, "Oh, let's take Sunita to the next meeting. At least she will add color there." I felt anger rising within me. I froze, but collected myself, looked at him, and said calmly, "Please take those words back. I have earned this position and sustained it, not by adding color and not to decorate your meetings." Nobody spoke a word. But later on, I thought, did I overreact? And when Vishaka guidelines came, I was made chairperson of the POSH committee of my company, a position I held for 10 years. And then after retirement, I started my own organization, Full Circle, under which I conduct these training programs. And I asked the men, "Why do you think he said that?" And their answers were, "Oh, he was probably trying to embarrass you or impress you or mock you or dissuade you from going for that meeting. Or he was probably really impressed." Then I turned to the women and the words started pouring out. Disrespect. They may objectify, numb it, and wonder, say, "I'll never forget that." Man, I will become dysfunction for next few days. And the room went still. I could see the expressions of surprise on the faces of them. And that moment reflected like a mirror how deeply normalized our stereotypes, our beliefs have become. I felt so alone that day when it happened in that meeting. So I realized one more thing, that men actually do not know what harm their actions or behaviors are caused. It has gone so deep. What is the root cause? Because until and unless we know why, we cannot address or solve any problem. We start these stereotyping in our own homes. There have been a research by Gina Davis, one of the very famous Hollywood actresses, and Mackenzie, that every 1 hour of TV that a girl watches, her views become more and more limited about life. And every 1 hour of TV that a boy watches, his views become more and more sexist. And today, the social media algorithms are exposing the boys to more and more misogynistic behavior. If we don't do anything now, probably we get too late. What is our media doing? Showing all kind of objectification. And this, somewhere along the way, these lines started becoming more and more deep. And what happened? What was the result? The stereotypes became normalized These normalization became systems, and these systems became power. Sexual harassment is all about power. It has nothing to do with sex. It's an artificial statement of power. And when this power is misused or goes unchecked, sexual harassment may happen. This is how we have started seeing the world, each other, and ourselves. Everybody has to come together. And we have to be empathetic towards each other because men also suffer. Little boys are told, don't cry. So what they do? They cry or suppress their emotions, but behind closed doors or under the quilts. And then these suppressed emotions later on in life come out in the form of rage, anger, frustration, alcoholism, but they are suffering silently also. I think it's time that we celebrate Men-Centered National Day also, where they should come and also talk about their frustrations. This was my realization that in the training, we should not only talk about what is law and the do's and don'ts. That is not going to solve the problem. We have to create a space which is safe, which is interactive, where people can talk, the truth can come out, and misunderstandings can be dismantled. So, a lot of men ask, suppose there is a misuse of law, let us not hire women. Don't inform too much, the complaints will increase. So, I turn to the women again and I say, why don't you answer this question? And they say, you are aware of what harm the comments or the actions or the behavior can cause. So, simple answer is just be respectful. It is a leadership issue. I have met so many progressive leaders who went beyond compliance and used this law and trainings as a tool to transform the culture of the organization. So what happened? The innovations rose, the retention is stabilized, the boundaries became visible, the conversations began, and where respect became a practice, not just a policy. So respect is everyone's responsibility. As parents, as educators, we have to bring gender sensitization in our curriculum because we are actually talking about half the population. And respect is the key. The lawmakers, please plug the gaps. There are so many loopholes in the law. For example, retaliation is not covered. So I filed a public interest litigation. It reached Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, we cannot amend the law, so represent before the ministry. My representation is pending there. And anyone who is suffering from retaliation or facing retaliation, come forward. But the media, how does it portray the women survivors? We don't want pictures like this. We want pictures like this, the leaders who led the nation and changed the course of history. Every day. And we want pictures like this. Harvey Weinstein is still in jail. Nirbhaya's rapists have been hanged. Ultimately, we have to break the gender cage and fly out and become whole again. Because that's where our identity lies. So, thank you for that. The men and women both have to cross the boundaries. Men have to cross the boundaries of disrespect with awareness. And women have to cross the boundaries of their silence. and go towards equality where we will meet on equal terms. So, I started this journey with outrage, but I'm continuing with hope. And today, I'm inviting all of you to come and walk with me, not as a man or woman, but as humans. Will you come with me and walk on this earth?